Hello. As I continue my look at the Syrahs from the Northern Rhône, I've come to Cornas, and this is a Cornas from Matthieu Barret of Domaine du Coulet, and this is a cuvee called Brise Cailloux from 2020. Evidently Matthieu is the 7th generation of his family to be a vigneron. He was actually born in Aix-en-Provence, studied winemaking in Beaune, and then in 1992 he joined his grandfather, who had started Domaine du Coulet just after the Second World War, working with him in their vineyards in Cornas. It turns out that Matthieu's father had decided against becoming a vigneron, he'd become a businessman. But the estate owned 25 hectares of really well-positioned vineyards in Cornas, on the terraces there, with the fractured granite soils and perhaps a degree of clay in the lower slopes, but some really high-quality vineyards. And the thing was that until Matthieu came to work with his grandfather, they'd actually never bottled or marketed their own wines. It had always been sold to other people and blended off. So people like Chapoutier and Delas Freres had sold their wines. And then in 1998, at the age of just 23, Matthieu took over running the domain from his grandfather. And his approach was to use natural farming methods, organic farming methods, and in fact by 2002 the domain was certified as biodynamic. He believes in low yields, careful selection. In the winery he uses no new oak, there's no racking, there's no fining, there's no filtration. His aim is just to make pure Syrah. In the vineyards they use horses and mules to do a lot of the cultivation, although there is one area of the vineyards, 1 hectare, that they actually have to plough with a winch because it's too steep to do otherwise. In the cellar, wines and musts are moved around by gravity, and there are no inputs. Fermentations are all done with the ambient yeasts, the wild yeasts that come into the winery on the fruit. Pretty much all the fruit is destemmed, and in the winery they use a mix of concrete fermenters and stainless steel fermenters. There's no temperature control, and they use as gentle extraction as possible, so that tends to be using pump overs and pushing the skins down back into the fermenting juice and wine. When it comes to pressing, they're using gentle pneumatic presses. For aging, instead of using barrels, this wine aged, for instance, for 18 months in concrete eggs. Again, trying to capture pure Syrah flavours and aromas. To keep to the minimal input approach, they try and bottle with as little sulphur as possible, about 30 parts per million, which is hardly anything. And although light filtration is sometimes practiced, it's only if it's absolutely necessary. So, there we go. Let's have a look at the wine, shall we? Looking at this, you have got a deep, dark, ruby red there with a lovely, well, black red almost, with a lovely purple rim. Swirling it, the wine seems to be staining the glass quite happily there. The alcohol is only 12.5%, but there are still some tears being formed on the side of the glass there. So that could simply be the density of the wine, the tannins that are there. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? Gosh, those are really very powerful, clean fruit notes, as I've been led to expect from what the notes have said. There's an almost floral nature to the aromas. They're sort of rich peonies, violets, those sorts of aromas. And then behind it, there's a real richness, sort of rich, ripe black cherries, dark red cherries, concentrated plums, really ripe through almost to a pruny note. It's almost a chocolatey touch, hints of licoricey concentration. There's a lot going on in there. So let's have a taste. On the palate, there's a combination of freshness, there's concentration, there's this lovely, juicy, ripe fruit, and plenty of it with some high-tone notes. Again, it's those violets, the peonies, the lifted floral notes. But behind that, there's a sort of a high-toned ripeness. There's that sort of prune to plum note, and yet the good freshness of the wine is stopping that from seeming overripe. There is a sort of this real core of richness. There is a sort of a slight bitterness, adds a little bit, I suppose, of a slightly meaty, slightly peppery note at the end there. But that's somewhat dominated by this sort of ripe, juicy fruit. Traditionally, I think of Cornas as being one of the more rustic, more tannic, more drying styles of Syrah from the Northern Rhône. This, on the other hand, is lively, it's elegant, it's open. I think the style in which it's made is designed to make it approachable at a fairly young age. I'm sure this has the concentration, it certainly has the complexity and the depth to age for 5 to 10 years. But it's very attractive now, surprisingly vibrant, with lovely primary fruit, yet good complexity following that. So yes, I think a really interesting wine. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found the tasting of interest. If you have, do please press the like button. If you've got any views, please leave those. We'd love to hear your feedback about the tastings, about the wines. If you've got friends you think might be interested in watching the video, do please forward it to them. If you'd like to sign up and follow us on YouTube, we'd love to have your support. But most importantly, do please come and try and join us again for another tasting in the very near future, won't you? Bye for now.